I'm gonna have to start singing so everyone knows their sound. Brian, what do you think? I'll just hum a little tune. Sing. Actually, over the Memorial Day weekend, Brian, can you hear me? By the way, unmute yourself. Let me know that we're actually up and running. Glenn, you can hear me. Awesome. Well, that's good.
Hello, everybody. I figured out how to unmute myself. I'm so excited.
There we go. Awesome. So, Brian, I was actually this Memorial Day weekend went camping with a couple of other families and found myself, which, by the way, as you could tell, I have a terrible voice. My singing voice is even worse. And I found myself up on stage with the two-man band singing Hank Williams Jr. It's a family tradition.
Family tradition.
I said anybody could sing that, even if you can't sing. So, well, everybody, thank you for joining us for today's webinar. And thank you, Brian, of course, for joining us as well. This is our new webinar software, which I had some bugs with last week, but thankfully have been able to get those all worked out. One of the things that you guys will note is that if you look to the right, there's a public chat log that I'm going to go ahead and leave public. If you have questions, comments, and things you'd like to talk about while we're going through the webinar, I'd love to see your interaction. Feel free to chat those live. If you have questions specifically for admin, you'll notice a drop-down box. You can either choose public comment to chat, or you can choose the comment to private comment to admin, and that'll go only to us as the admin. So today's webinar, of course, being presented by Brian McNee, our senior bond analyst here at the TBWS Group, and with the RateMastery service. And the TBWS Group is the king of mortgage-backed security data, and more than that, we offer products that provide sales and marketing support, true powerhouses to go out and get business, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm not using GoToWebinar, so this question box in this slide will actually be replaced on a future webinar, but you can see the same thing. Go ahead and type in and chat and say hello. So what is RateMastery? RateMastery is really a group of originators that are looking to get better at their business, want to go ahead and improve their business, and want to make themselves, better professionals. So we applaud you for that. Today's takeaway, actually, I have this cool little item here, but we're also going to have one of the slides that was very popular that Brian had put together. So without much further ado, Brian, let me go ahead and let you take it away and tell us about housing reports.
Excellent. Well, welcome, everybody. Appreciate you taking time out of your day. Of course, some of these webinars that we do talk about what's going on with the bond market, teach you technicals and things of that, how to position rates. But every once in a while, about every third or fourth one, we want to sort of just cover the basics so that when we talk about oh, there you are. I see you there. That is, do I have a virus?
Yeah, that was me popping in. I had seen a couple of chats that said people weren't seeing the screen. I wanted to just refresh.
Wow, what a virus. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that when you hear pending home sales or when you hear existing home sales and you get these little alerts from us that tell you a reading was better than expected or worse than expected, or we give you the weekly preview of what we're concerned about and what we're looking at, that you know what we're talking about. And more importantly, that you can look at these housing reports and sort of pick out some things for yourself that will allow you and enable you to talk with realtors intelligently, because shockingly, they know less about housing reports than anybody does. So this will help you definitely sort of help you with that knowledge-based selling, which is key in this marketplace. All right, Honcho, let's fire up some slides here.
Okay, here you go. Now versus the peak.
All right, now versus the peak. Of course, everybody is crawling out of that little cave that was the refinance boom cave, and now they're looking outside and they're saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to originate purchase. My business is in trouble." let's really take a look at where we are today versus where we are at the peak of the housing market, which was the fourth quarter of 2005 / first quarter of 2006. And we just updated this with current information here. This is a great takeaway for you to discuss with your realtors and with your clients. If you have some clients that haven't purchased a home because they're concerned about, say, depreciation instead of appreciation, or their house becoming underwater, for example, or anything like that, this is something you can start bringing to the table. The national home ownership rate at the peak of the housing market was 69%. That is way too high, folks. That is dysfunctional. There is no metrics on earth where an economist will look at that and say that's reasonable. That is not a reasonable number. We should not aspire to get to a 69% home ownership rate. That is way too high. What that means is a lot of products were used to complete mortgages that otherwise would not have been completed in a normally functioning open marketplace. And that number was just pushed upward beyond where it should be. Right now, we're just under 65%. And that's not a bad level. We've got some room to grow. We could grow 1 or 2% in there, and that would be almost at a saturation level. So we're at a decent level right now with the national home ownership rate. Existing home sales, look at that. We are at over 7 million annualized units on existing home sales. Let's not take into account new home sales, which were very robust at over 1 million units back then too. We're right now, we just came out, and it came out at 4.65 million annualized units. Certainly a far cry from there, and we have some room to go, but in no means are we anywhere near any type of bubble situation like we certainly were in 2005. Let's look at the median price of existing homes. 219,600. 2005, look where we are now, well below that. We've come a long way from the bottom. We were well below that number. We've climbed all the way back up above 200,000 for the very first time since we've tanked. And that's an encouraging sign. But it's been slow and steady. Inventory months, very nice. 5.25 is way too hot, folks, in 2005, and we're just under 6 months right now. Probably that number should be higher than 6 months, and that has to do with the fact that we've got a huge shadow inventory that is just being held in place by banks as they wait for appreciation to tick up a little bit more, and they start to liquidate those homes again. But that's a very low inventory level. Now, let's look at these next two levels. I don't know if you can highlight those 4 metrics for me. I don't think I have tools to do it. But the average 30-year fixed rate, use app. I've just added draw. Now what is it doing to me, Jason? Can I draw?
I was trying to draw on the slide too. It'll let me draw if I go to you. I can give you like a hat or a face or something, but it won't let me draw on the slide.
Okay. Well, everybody,
however, I got a really cool hat.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it, folks, that in 2005, the average conventional fixed rate, so this isn't rates for stated income or no doc loans or A-, all the stuff that was around there. That's the average 30-year fixed rate, 5% down, good credit scores, debt-to-income ratio below 41% was 6.27%, and we were selling 7 million homes. Now, the interest rate, on average, 4.2% this month. Actually, a little lower rate this second, but last week it was 4.2%, according to the Freddie Mac survey, and we're selling almost half as many homes. So why? Doesn't interest rate control homes? Doesn't it drive demand? The answer is no, it does not. And we have shown you an excellent slide, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, where we compared the unemployment rate versus existing home sales, and the correlation is extremely strong. The unemployment rate, whether you believe it's an accurate representation of who's working, who's not working, is irrelevant. 4.9% was the unemployment rate in 2005 during the peak of the housing market, and look where we are now, 6.3%, and that's way down. We've been falling and falling and falling, primarily due to a fall off in participation rate, not so much people going back to work. But look at that difference there. So my first question to you today to sit on your put on your thinking caps. Would you rather have a 6% interest rate if unemployment was under 5%? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't have an interest rate below 6% and unemployment below 5%. It's mathematically impossible. It can't happen. So the answer is absolutely you would rather have a 6% interest rate and a low unemployment rate, because low unemployment means demand for housing. It always has and always will. And that's what I want you to focus on, not so much interest rate. Let's go ahead and dive in now that you've got that teaser into what the different housing reports are, what they mean, how to read them, and how to use them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide there, Hammer. First question, we've got appreciation levels that we'll go over each one. Right now, year over year, which is what YOY stands for when you see our text message alerts, existing home sales median sales price is up 5.16% on a year over year basis. But the Case-Shiller says it's up 12.9%. But the FHFA says it's up 6.6%. So which is right? We'll learn that in just a moment.
You know, I'm going to jump in on that real quick, Brian, before I change slides. Yes. I'm going to try out something new so that you guys can see why I use this system. Is I just put in the download today's takeaway item link that is up in the top right. It would have popped up on your screen. You can click that download now button, and that will actually, as long as you don't have your pop-ups blocked, beware if you have pop-ups blocked, but that'll open up a new tab with a downloadable takeaway item for you to right now on the webinar. Click the button and take that. It'll open it up in a new tab for you, and then you can download that anytime that you want to. So with that part said, now I can move forward. Brian, by the way, one of the questions in the chat log was, when you compile this data, where are some of the sources that you may come up with some of that?
Certainly. Well, if we're using existing home sales median sales price, the only place that it can come from, and that's what we're going to go over in the next couple slides, is we're going to teach you where each of those reports come from, who issues it, and how do they compile it. And so that's a great lead into this slide right here. We'll discuss which ones are the most important, how to understand the data, and how each one impacts pricing and some historical trends. Okay? Now, the big ones are existing home sales, pending home sales, which we just got today, new home sales, housing starts and building permits, and the home price indexes. That 2 slides ago, we showed you the 3 different appreciation rates, and because they're based on 3 different reports. So let's go into these real quickly and help you understand them. Existing home sales is released by the National Association of Realtors. You can go directly to their website and download all the data right into your Excel spreadsheets, and you can do any type of analysis that you want. Most of what you want is already done for you in a report, and they help you to understand what's going on. It compares single-family residents, condos, and co-ops. It does not include multifamily. It measures closed sales in 4 geographical regions, includes the median price in months of inventory, and currently it accounts for 92% of all home sales. Next. Here you can see the infographic that the National Association of Realtors just published. You can see that the national median home price is $201,700 in the left-hand corner. Single-family homes, which is a component of that, is $201,100, and condo and co-ops are getting a little better price, $205,500, because they're probably in more of the coastal areas. Okay. Now let's ask you a quick. I think this next one is a poll question. Where, let me ask you, I don't know if you can do that on the fly or not, where are the majority of homes sold? Can anyone guess? Northeast, Midwest, South, or West?
Just give them 1 minute, Brian. There's actually a little bit of a delay, believe it or not, between what we're doing live and when they're seeing it. So they will get that poll a moment or two after this slide changes. So while I'm talking is now when they can go ahead and fill that out, and we will close that poll in a minute. So while that was a great little infographic, by the way, on the last screen, where do you pick that up? Over at the National Association of Realtors?
Right off their website. That's their product that they have compiled and put out there for public use. Yep.
And do you think that the this current blip in rates that we've had that's really keeping things down, do you think that is going to help drive a strong spring market, or do you think there's still some apprehension from a lot of people jumping in?
No. That's something we've already demonstrated in one of the first couple of slides, is that the lower interest rate is not we just got the pending home sales. Again, we'll talk about more of this after each report, but it has been proven report after report after report this year that the lower interest rates is not having the desired impact on home purchases. Of course, it doesn't hurt, but it doesn't really matter if the interest rate is zero. If the unemployment rate is too high, if the types of jobs that are being created, i.e. the slack in the economy, are low-paying jobs or part-time jobs, quite frankly, the pool of people that are eligible for a loan is just too small right now. So no, that interest rate, the lower interest rate, is not a catalyst for the housing market right now. What will be a catalyst for the housing market is if the non-farm payroll starts to improve. So there you go. There's the answer. This is not the results of the poll, but this is the actual information from the website. 42% of the homes sold are in the South. 23% are on the left coast. 13% are on the Northeast. 22% in the Midwest. So we've got a good spread there. You can see what does the public polls say that they thought they were. The majority, looks like the majority of people thought they would be in the West, so that probably means we have a lot of originators from the West Coast on this. But yes, the majority by far is certainly in the South.
Really? That's surprising.
Well, the economy in the South is a lot better than the left coast. But at any rate, you can see existing home sales. In August of 2010, we tanked all the way down to 3.83 million on an annualized basis. Even in March, this doesn't go back to 2005, but even in March of 2007, we were at almost 6.7 million units. So you can see we are way below where we were. But you know what? That period of time was not a normal historical average. That was a period of several years. So we'll put it from 2003 to 2007. That was an anomaly that was fueled by artificial demand for homes for people that should never have been approved for a home. And it just wasn't sustainable or representative of what true market forces are. And we've shed that. So now we're based on fundamentals again, and we should be climbing back up to that, say, 5.5 million level would be a nice level again. We're not there yet, but certainly it's not anything to be too concerned about yet. We're really not on our way down. We're kind of leveling off at where we are right now, because we are just getting ready to hit the busy season. Existing home sales inventory, as you can see, as it declines, prices spike. That's because of scarcity and demand, and that's just Econ 101. So that's an easy concept to hit. Let's go ahead and fire the next one. Pending home sales. We just got this today, and it was up 0.4%. The bond market ignored it. And you know what? You should too, because it's not a real report. It's a sampling. Existing home sales are actually contracts that closed. It's real data. Pending home sales is a sampling based on only 20% of the marketplace, and then they take that and create an index. So they compare the index from one month to another month to come up with the change, as opposed to it's very confusing. Pending home sales is not, we had 4 million signed contracts last month, and this month we have 3.5 million signed contracts. That is not what pending home sales are. So it's just a fake report, essentially. Anybody can do it. If you know anything about statistics, you take a population sample that you think accurately reflects your pool, and then you shove a fudge factor on it, and you get an index. And as long as you compare the same index time after time, you get a difference. You can see here that the blue line being pending home sales and existing home sales being the red line, they're significantly far apart. really in 2011, 2012, 2013, and really 2014, they're going complete opposite directions. Obvious reasons there. Pending home sales aren't closed, and it's not reflective of actual contracts signed. It's a sampling of what they think the contracts are that's signed. So the market doesn't react to pending home sales, but one of the things we do is a lot of leading indicators such as appliance sales, furniture sales, things like that, take the pending home sale index as a leading indicator for future demand, and they put that into those other formulas to figure out what they think the demand will be for durable goods and things like that. So that's really its value. You're never going to see pending home sales move the bond market in any kind of material way. Existing home sales will, though. Okay. New home sales. You know what? You'd think new home sales will be released by the National Association of Housing Home Builders, and it's not. It's released by the U.S. Census Bureau. They are contracts signed but not closed. They're new construction only, and it accounts for a maximum of about 7% of the home sales in the United States. So if you're going to look at two reports, one that represents about 92% of the market, and one that represents about 7% of the market, which one are you going to put more weight into? Well, you're going to put more weight into the existing home sales, and that's what the bond market does as well. You see that new single-family houses sold in the United States, that's 384,000, folks. That's a really, really, really low number. That report just came out. And you can see where we were significantly above 1 million units in the peak of the housing market. And now you understand why all the home builders got hammered so hard. There is just, the new home sales are, just not doing so well. And that'll be sort of one of the leading indicators for the housing market to know that we're actually making some real progress is when you see that number start to tick up in a meaningful way. Really, the market will pretty much ignore any reading that's below 500,000. Until we start getting 500,000 on a consistent basis, it's not going to move pricing on your mortgage-backed securities in any way, shape, or form. Now, housing starts. We got building permits and housing starts. So hit right, 2 slides right after another. This is the beginning of excavation. So when you start on the foundation, they call that a housing starts. Now, keep in mind that not all housing starts are ever completed. There's a percentage of that never get completed. And then depending on the geographical region and whether that takes place, it may take 6 months to a year before that is available for sale as inventory. It is a leading indicator, and it includes multifamily, whereas existing homes does not. Let's take a look at the next graphic here. Look at that. This is just released. Everybody was excited because new housing starts topped 1 million units. Okay, but strip out multifamily, because multifamily, for the most part, is not a Fannie Freddie transaction. And you want to look at your core world that's going to put money in your pocket in originations of single-family residences. 649,000 of the 1,072,000 were single-family starts. That's where we have to be very concerned with. If we ever got single-family housing starts above 1 million again, then you know things are really taking off in the housing market. Building permits. Now that's, obviously it's issued by government entity. Not all permits even turn into a housing start. So after you get a permit, it might take 5 to 7 months before you break ground, and then it might take another 6 to 12 months after that before it's completed. It's also used as a leading indicator for other types of economic reports. But you can see now that when we have a 5.9 month supply of inventory in the United States and existing home sales, and we have such small numbers in new housing starts and building permits as related to single-family residents specifically, and the time lag between the building permit and the home being available for inventory, we have a long time before we're going to have additional inventory hit the market. And then that's the plus side of that is that it's good for housing prices overall. Okay, next one.
I love that I can leave you speechless. No, I'm just kidding.
You can see there that, again, building permits topped 1 million units, but a portion of that was multifamily. And also, building permits don't turn into actual completed construction much of the time. Now, we have many home price indexes. One of the first slides we showed you were 3 of them. What's very interesting between the Case-Shiller Homes 20 City Composite and the FHFA House Price Index, both compare repeat sales on the same property, which is very key. So their home price index calculation does not take into account a property that's sold and once and then it hasn't sold again. It doesn't try to figure out what the appreciation rate on that property is. It only compares data points on the same exact property. What's really interesting is the FHFA uses refinance data as well for values to compare loan changes on the same property. What's confusing is if you start diving into the FHFA, which is what that report shows right there, 7.69% on the last quarter. They do a quarter on quarter, so we'll get the next quarter on quarter coming up. But what's interesting for them is they call it a purchase, whether it's a refinance or a home purchase. And the reason why they call it a purchase is because Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie are purchasing the loans that are originated. So they're going into their pool. So a refinance loan is a purchase for Fannie and Freddie. A purchase is a purchase for Fannie and Freddie, if that makes sense. So when they say purchases, they're not meaning just a home sale. They're meaning Fannie and Freddie buying that loan and putting it into their pool. So they're able to really take a look because they have all the instruments. Right? Everything you key in on that 1003, it used to be with the MBS pools, you had just a few pieces of information. There was a weighted average for the pool, and now you know every single property. Everybody's got a MERS number. Everybody's got a home value, a purchase price, an interest rate, a debt-to-income ratio, a credit score, assets, all that stuff is all known for every single loan that's inside the pool for mortgage-backed securities. Now FHFA has very detailed information on the pool of loans on a month-over-month and a quarter-over-quarter basis. So of the 3 reports, existing home sales, which compares median sales price to median sales price, Case-Shiller, which is sort of akin to this, but it's only in 20 metro regions, or FHFA, which is every single agency loan, obviously not jumbos or exotic loans. Which one would have the most detailed data to sink your teeth into? And the answer is FHFA by a mile. The only problem is that it's not as fluid as the other reports. They come out a little bit, the timing of them is more current towards data driven as opposed to a quarter behind like the FHFA is. So that's the one that certainly has the most data points and I would say be the most representative of what's really going on in a marketplace. So essentially what you have is a year-over-year basis. You're looking at about just under 8% appreciation rate with an interest rate averaging below 4.2%. You know, that's pretty good. What's missing? What's missing are jobs. And while the first quarter GDP was just revised downward to a negative 1%, the second quarter is going to be very strong, the third quarter even stronger. The question is, at what point in time does that really start to produce real jobs? We've had some decent non-farm payroll numbers, which we've reported on, and the market has largely shrugged off due to what's going on overseas. But we're going to need a pickup in labor, which we will get. The question is, when will we get it? We're not going to be anemic forever. We'll get that. Will we get it in the middle of the year, at the end of the year, or the beginning of 2015? At some point, we'll get it. And then you will see a very robust housing market. But again, nowhere near where we were at the peak. And the peak was an abomination. We don't need to be near where that peak was. That was not a good thing. So that's what the different housing reports are. That's how you can view them, where you can go to get them. New home sales are the Census Bureau. You've got pending and existing are, of course, at the National Association of Realtors website. You can get that. So you know where to get the reports. You know what the reports mean. Out of all the reports that we talk, the one that has the biggest ability to actually impact your pricing is by far the existing home sales report. Does anybody have any questions for me before Jason goes into his overview of the site?
I'm looking through the questions. It'll.
On the lock advice, we were told nothing much happening today. Yeah, why? Well, you're only down 7 basis points. That's not, I'm not sure what triggers that automatic email that goes out, but we're only down 7 basis points from yesterday's close. That's not anything that's got me excited. We talked in the morning coffee update that the upside is limited. We felt we would do a little better today than yesterday, but the upside's limited. And I guess now we're up 1 basis point. We were down 7 at refresh ago, and now we're up 1. So we're just moving in a narrow range. Nothing specifically has happened. There's been no new event, no economic release.
When you get all this green in a row, you kind of get spoiled, and then all of a sudden, and even still looking at this chart, the line chart, I mean, it's not like we peaked up. I mean, even at the height, we went from an open at, today's open was 106.02. Today's high was 106.19. I mean, we were up, the highest of 17 basis points, which, isn't even enough to be a reprice or move anything in today's environment. You need at least 30, 35 basis points for that. So it feels worse than it is really the nutshell.
Yeah, there's great support, though, guys. You've got, they've just reported that Ukraine admits to losing between 1,200 and 1,500 dead soldiers over the course of these excursions. That's providing a tremendous amount of support, and it's not going away, folks. They've lost 8 helicopters. Very interesting. Several weeks due to increase. Bond market is oversold. Rates only fell after this. Where do you see the bottom? Well, as long as, Rich, am I supposed to be reading these, Hammer, or what?
You can read away. Anything that you want to read, go ahead.
Well, why don't I let you go over the screen that you've got up there, and then I'll pick a couple of these while you're doing that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody is when you're looking, like a great question about what happened today and why a movement. If there's anything that's really a factor that's moving rates beyond normal, trading, you'll see that in the breaking news section here, which now you can even slide through. And when we sent out the webinar invite, we told you, we would give you the reports, but then we would talk about how do you actually take that and translate that into your business to create new business. And one of the ways that you'll hear us again and again reiterate is having this conversation with a rate shopper or a realtor or a consumer whenever you're talking about rate. With the with the changes to our industry with Frank Dodd and what was originally, the Fed comp rule, transparency has become a huge buzzword. I mean, you need to be able to show why things are changing and discuss with a consumer that they are. And remember that people today have our society has also changed. We're immediate gratification smartphone using society. So when you have a conversation, you want to say to your borrower, your potential borrower, your consumer that's out shopping or looking around, if they got a rate quote from someone, you could say to them, can I ask you, what time did you get that rate quote? Was it yesterday? Was it earlier today? Okay, great. Well, if you got a quote earlier this morning, rates were up. If you got that at around 11 o'clock Eastern, rates were, the environment was improved. Rates could have actually been slightly better. Mortgage pricing could have been slightly better. Since then, we've seen quite a dip. We're down, our markets are down significantly. Nothing, really making a difference as to why, but there hasn't been anything overseas again. And just start commenting on those different things. You could also talk about what happened this morning and talk about what those different breaking news elements are. And you want to start incorporating that into your conversation because it's going to set you apart from your, the other people that are out there, and it gives a reason why rates and pricing are moving. And sometimes it's not rate as much as it is pricing. For years and years we were focused on if I could give 4.5 today and 4.5 tomorrow, it was the same rate. But now everybody on the line knows that you can give 4.5 today and 4.5 tomorrow, but the difference in pricing could be a quarter point or 3/8 of a point in pricing. And for somebody with a $200,000 loan, that's a few $100 swing. and it can be even more than that. So that's something that they really want to know more about. So Brian, did you want to address any of those questions with the charts while we got them up here?
Let's see here. Hammer, all of my realtor partners disappeared when you switched over. Anybody in the back? I
Well, you don't
don't
have to read those ones, but Karen, Karen's question was for when she was in the old system with Rate Alert, even though we did put a lot of messaging out. If you have contacts that were in the old system and you need them, reach out to customer support, support at tbwsmail.com. Let them know that you need your contacts. They still, of course, have access to the old system and can pull them out for you. But
Okay.
the ones that I guess are more of a focus is just anything about rates or talking about the resistance, or I know you want to switch to the 3.5 coupon. We're going to be making that change. Wanted to do that today, but I don't see that up there, so that'll be tomorrow. Anything you want to leave everybody with as far as where you think things are going or why they're.
I guess just two comments. First, this webinar is specifically designed to try to remove all the noise and help you focus on just what the housing reports are, so you can use it in your discussion with realtors. Because while we do monitor pricing, we're more than just all rates all the time. So we want to make sure we give you additional pieces that you can use. And not cloud it up with what's going on in the marketplace. But as an ending, I think one thing that question that Scott Robinson had asked that I want to specifically address. He's looked at the candlestick and moved it off away, and I think he says the MBS market is equal to May 2014 lows. I'm thinking he probably means 2013 because, he's saying why aren't the pricing compared to that period better from his investors? And the simple answer to that is the investors are full. They're full. They're full. They don't have to pass on everything to you in the same way that they did before. And some of the investors, I can tell you, some of the very large wholesalers have actually hedged the incorrect way. Most bond traders have been waiting for a major sell-off, and they've positioned themselves for a sell-off, and they haven't gotten a sell-off, and so they've kind of been hurt on their hedge, and so they've got to coop that up, and until they recoup it all, they're not going to pass it along over to you. You got fewer players today than you even did a year ago, and as far as purchase business, while everybody on this conference might not be full, I can tell you the wholesalers are completely at full capacity for purchase loans right now, because they are not hiring new people and they are not investing in more capacity. They are keeping their costs low, and so a lot of the price improvement that you would have seen at different times, you're not exactly getting right now. But that ebbs and flows all the time. That's just what the marketplace is. You're going to have periods where things are just dead for wholesalers, and they will start passing on spreads a little bit more aggressively to you. That's just the nature of the market.
So I will go ahead and leave off with anybody that is not currently a 1003 Magnet subscriber. If you'd like to go ahead and try it out, feel free to go ahead and experience it for yourself. I put a link up on the webinar to your right where it says get started. You can go ahead, try it for 30 days for $1. If you don't like it, you can go ahead and cancel it off at any time. You can cancel it before a full billing period. Otherwise, go ahead and try it for $1. It's $39.95 a month after that. It's a fantastic service. Those of you that are members, we appreciate you and thank you for that. Those of you that are whose companies may sponsor your subscription and you're actually on today's call, RateMastery webinar, take a minute and thank your managers for that. And that's where I will leave off today. Brian, is there anything you want to leave everybody with?
No, the next one we have, we'll be discussing more of the what's going on behind the scenes with the rates and more of the charting and market stuff that a lot of you have got questions. So look forward to that. And make sure you guys are watching that morning coffee update video, because a lot of stuff is in that video that answers your questions that we don't type in the narrative. There's just no way. I can't type in 75 pages. I'd rather just say it in 3 sentences and have you understand it. So make sure you guys are watching that video. I know you all have 4 minutes in the morning to do that.
Which, by the way, you can actually get that from a couple different places. If you get it from your main dashboard, there's a cool player right there on the front page, which give a moment, and as soon as the site refreshes, a lot of activity on the site now. As soon as that refreshes, I'll show that to you. And the other place that you can get that is down here. It figures right in the middle, right? So it's right here on your dashboard when you first log in. You can go ahead and click the Morning Coffee Lock Talk, and that will load the player for you.
Good morning,
And put Brian's smiling face on. Or if you're on the MBS dashboard, you can go ahead and watch that from the commentary section. If you click on the Lock Talk, that'll take you there. And you can go ahead and click to play right there. And of course, it'll play the same thing. So go ahead and check those out. All right, Brian, thanks again. Thanks for playing along with my new webinar software. Guys, if you don't mind, do me a favor. Tell me in the chat box what you think of the new webinar software. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and let me reset the poll. I'm going to put a new poll. What do you think of the new webinar format? I like it. I hate it. And let me go ahead and throw that up there. And with that, I'll let you guys vote on that as you're going out the back door. Brian, I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Had a fantastic time. Make sure you use those slides to talk to your realtors. Have a great day.
Take care.